Hi, this is a quick introduction video to 5150 Shipyard. This is a new supplement, optional supplement, of course, that meshes right into the 5150 space combat rules, contact with space, and all of that, on how to buy a ship, modify your ship, and fly your ship with more detail. So this really goes a step further into adding more flavor to your game, gives you an idea of the size of ships we're usually going to see player characters play. These are hull 1 to 6. So we added new subgate ships. These are a new class of ships that are hull 1 and 2, typically system-only ships, shuttles, cargo ships, police skiffs, things like that. Your player characters are typically going to fly a hull 3, 4, 5, or 6 ship. Most of the time you see them in a light freighter or a merchant. A hull 4 or 5 is pretty common. So think, for those not familiar with the universe, this is your Beowulf Far Trader class from Traveller, or Millennium Falcon, or the Rosinante, that kind of a thing, right? So this is the type, or Firefly from Serenity from Firefly. So those are the types of ships that you have. Of course, we also have the mega ships, right? So you can see at the top is a hull 6, and all the way down to a hull 12, which is going to be your Dreadnought class or a Mobile Gate ship or something like that. So that gives you the idea of the relative scale of ships, even more flavor in your games. And there's a whole list of ships here, sub-gate ships, all your gate ships, variants of them, heavy freighters, light freighters, merchants, runners, passenger ships, military cutters, raiders, pirate ships. These are all customized ships, a whole list of them for you to go after and buy. And how we build ships in this system is pretty straightforward. So you already know the basics of how to get a ship. You expend decreasing D6 rep to get a ship, right? So more details on that in the rules, but once you've got a ship, you buy from a standard list, right? So say I'm going to build myself a standard light freighter, which is a hull 5 ship here, right? Here's your standard light freighter is a hull 5 ship, right? So I buy the ship, and now I can modify that ship, right? New rules in this module are you can buy ship modules. So not only can I spend points to basically shuffle the order of things, maybe bump up my thrust and drop my firepower, something like that, or give myself more cargo capacity, I can also add ship modules that are basically modifiers in the game. These add things that affect your operations, like extended fuel bunkers, long-range sensors, you reroll PEFs, things like that. Combat modules like armor, advanced sensors, reinforced bulkheads, point defense grids, anti-boarding action modules like security section or brig or marine bay, detachments, smuggler compartments. There's a whole series of positive things you can add to your ship. But also, if you want to be a little risky and get more points to modify your ship with, you can get a risk conversion module. What is this? Well, basically, you're going to nerf your ship. You're going to strip out reactor shielding. You're going to downgrade life support. You're going to do tear out some bulkheads inside, so your ship's more fragile and has some stress on the crew, but you get more points to play with when building your ship. And building a ship is really straightforward. So really, you look at the hull size. So say we're doing a hull size 5 ship. This is going to be a light freighter, right? There's your hull size of 5. You agree with my chicken scratch writing, and you get a base structural hull point value of 5, right? So you get 5 points to play with to modify your ship, right? So you can say, okay, well, I do want to go ahead and modify my basic far trader. Maybe I don't want to mess around with it too much as a light freighter. I've got standard thrust of 2. I've got a firepower of 1. It's pretty weak, right? And my hull is 5, right? So that's okay, but maybe I want to modify it some too, right? So I can then look at the module list. I can modify my thrust points if I want to. I can say, well, let's scratch 1 and scratch 2. So I want to go ahead and give myself some more modules. I have 5 points to play with. Well, let's give myself firepower 2. I don't feel comfortable with that, so I've got 4 left, right? Maybe I want to give myself 2 more cargo slots, so I've got 2 points left. With those 2 points, I want to do something that's going to help me survive in the harsh world of 5150. I want to have civilian armor, right? That costs another point, so I have 1 left. I have civilian armor. What that does is I get to ignore the first hit in combat, which is pretty nice. And maybe I want something else. Maybe I want to have a point defense grid that actually reduces opposing firepower pretty much once per encounter. So it doesn't really impact the game a lot. It's not a huge mood swinger, so to speak, or game changer, but it does help out immensely. So now I'm a little more capable. I've got a little more firepower. I've got a little more cargo. I've got armor and point defense. So maybe I'm now a secure light freighter. And then I also want to get into, hey, how do I calculate my crew needs? Well, all of these ships have a basic crew. So this can tell me my basic crew for my ship here as a light freighter is I need typically 6 to be at optimal crew, right? So I always need a captain here, and I'm going to have my first mate, right? So that's my 1 + 1. I have 2. Now I also have 2 modules. So I need actually 1 module. So that doesn't take any crew to man, but this one takes a crew to man. So I have a module crew, right? I have 1 per thrust. I need 2 engineers, right? I have 2 gunners because I have 2 firepower. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This ship needs 7 crew. So I need to have 7 crew optimally to fly this ship well. If I don't have 7 crew, I'm going to have some penalties and some rolls and stuff like that, but you can get around those. So that's the basics of it. And then, of course, you can calculate, your decrease in D6 reps. So I'm always going to have 5. I didn't take any risk modules. If I wanted to, I could say, hey, you know what? I want to give myself, I can actually take a penalty on my ship here, right? Let's take out let's do an illegal dockyard expansion. Gives me another cargo, right? So I mark down illegal expansion. So this is going to give me another point of cost that also represents extra scrutiny on the ship. You've got an illegal expansion, right? And it actually causes a penalty in boarding action. So defenders count as -1. Right, so it's a bigger ship. They've moved some things around, and it's harder to defend, and it gives you some penalties also in other areas. So that's basically it. So now this ship here takes 6 D6 decrease in rep per month to operate, and that's how you build a ship pretty fast. I hope you enjoy.